Something new is coming. Next Monday, it's time for Shorts. The Grand Shorts, the new short format of The Grand. To give my dear listeners more concentrated episodes, a different listening experience, but with all the elements you know. Insights, help, support, guidance, advice, reflections, and a few laughs along the way. Once per month, I will release episodes in this format. And I will start out with batches of 3 episodes per release. Tune in next Monday where you normally listen to The Grand. Welcome to The Grand Shorts, a part of The Grand podcast. The Grand. Welcome to The Grand, the EU funding podcast. The Grand. My name is Niels Tudor-Winter and I am the creator, editor and host of The Grand. The Grand is an independent, non-commercial podcast initiative with the ambition to dig into all corners of the EU R&D funding system on topics of interest for the full EU R&D funding community. Building up an EU funding approach from scratch in a research institute can seem like a monumental task. And it is. Especially if you're more or less one person to start it off. How do you attack that? How do you get the research teams involved? How do you secure some sort of results coming in not too late? And how do you build up the international and not least the Brussels network? Stephanie Harfensteller, EU Research Coordinator at the ICT Research Institute 4 under RWTH Aachen, did exactly this. She had the idea to get the institute rolling with EU funding and the management agreed. She's a good old contact of mine and of course I had to invite her in to share this great story. Because great it is. After a decade, the Institute is now very comfortable in its work with the EU R&D funding, and the research teams are now reaping the fruits of sticking its neck out and investing resources in moving into this area. This episode offers lots of insights and advice on how to work with EU funding in a research institute, and not least on how to build it up. Please enjoy. Grand. Welcome to The Grand, the EU funding podcast. Today, we are going to dive into the research world and how the research world is working with EU R&D funding. It's going to be very interesting, and I've been looking forward to this for a while because it's a nice old contact of mine I have as guest in today's virtual podcast studio. Stephanie, welcome.
Yes, thank you. I'm happy to be here. Yeah.
Yes, and a pleasure to have you here. And this is what I can say as the initiative that I'm doing here. What it is doing is that I'm reconnecting with some of my old connections across the whole line, and this is one of them. It's very nice. I'd love to have people in and have an in-depth talk, because normally you would have exchanged with people in context on EU proposals, or do you want to join or no, not, and they don't talk more but this, doing something like this, you really have a nice conversation with people about something that they care about. So that's nice. So, Stephanie, can you present yourself shortly and share where you work and?
Of course. Yeah, so my name is Stephanie Harfensteller, and I'm EU Research Coordinator at FIR Research Institute at RWTH Aachen University. We are an affiliated institute of the university, so we are, our own institute, so to say, and separate from the university, but at the same time work closely together with the university. And we are a research association, publicly funded by the state of North Rhine-Westphalia in Germany. And we focus practically on business organization, organizational eco design development, and business transformation. So these are basically our research focus. And to my own person, I did a double degree research master in European Studies at Maastricht University and University of Cologne. And right after my studies, I started working at the Institute, first as a research assistant, and then kind of pitched the idea to become more active in the EU business and started to build up this EU research coordinator position in the last 7 years. It's been 7 years, yeah.
Indeed, you did, and of course, this is also why we met. I think brokerage, as far as I remember, and it might also maybe it was back. I was shortly working for CINIT.
Yes.
Which is the Enterprise Europe Network and NCP organization of North Rhine-Westphalia in Germany. They have divided this into the Länder, into different regional states. And I think we were registered at the same event in Vienna, brokerage event. I didn't go, but we connected. So that was back in 2018. And 2017, yeah. And we've been living in the same place. Huh? I also lived in Aachen for 4 years, and it's a very nice city to, nice years there. Now, Stephanie, shortly, your experience on EU R&D proposals?
Well,
you are right. Are you a writer, or are you a facilitator, or which corner are you?
More a facilitator than a writer, but I support in writing more these cross-cutting issues, subjects, or whenever it comes to connecting the technology with politics and so on. Then I also am involved in writing certain parts of the proposal, but I'm more a facilitator, more focused on bringing in the correct partners, so getting us into consortia with the nice partners and facilitating the access points also to the NCPs and so on, and getting all the information ready that you need to write a successful proposal.
You're a research manager.
I'm a research manager. Yeah.
You're into that category. Are you connected to the European network with these research RM roadmap or some of these research manager projects? Are you connected to them?
I'm recently exploring more into that direction. So far, I mean, there's a really strong EU research manager community in Germany.
Yeah.
And I've been more involved with them so far, but I know about the AMA, and I'm more and more stretching my fingers out towards the European research manager community. Yes.
Yeah, it's a member-based organization, the AMA, right? So it of course requires that your organization would be involved as a member, but it's very popular and they do a very good work as far as what I can see.
Yes,
it's quite popular among research managers. No. Stephanie, we normally at this stage, I'd let the guests share a little bit about the organization that they work for. But since we're going to talk about your organization, that's almost entirely what we're going to do here. Just going to jump into the key topic of the day. Now, I've labeled this episode "Building Funding Capacities in R&D." Mm-hmm. So the discourse of this episode is to share how you in FIR managed to build up from scratch a EU R&D funding organization and put your toe into the waters of EU R&D funding. So maybe we start with this. You give us a presentation shortly on the research organization and the characteristics of the institute.
Mm-hmm. So the research organization itself, I already talked a bit about the research interest we have, and basically we do a really close to market, close to business research. So we are heavily involved with industry and also do not only research projects with them, but also consultancy projects one-on-one with industry. Mm-hmm. Trying to help them to meet the challenges of the digital transformation or the different transformations we have, and to help them with their ecosystem design, and transforming towards a modern organization. And the institute itself is based on the RWTH Aachen campus, so we are really close to the university structures, and we're based in a cluster. So we have industry partners who have their own offices within our facilities, and we also have an innovation lab where we can demonstrate the results of research projects to the industrial partners, and also a conference center and a demonstration factory attached to the institute, so we can demonstrate there what we want to achieve in these research projects, or also in these consultancy-based projects.
Yeah. And research-wise, what are your strengths on the institute?
Yes.
What was your flagship, so to say?
Well, the flagship, we had a change in the management, and also in regard to this, we also had a stronger reorientation on our research topics. The flagship is now on upgrade circular economy, which means the value adding to the circular economy principle, or the idea of circular economy, and how to bring that to industry.
Yeah.
Then we have a focus on AI and how to bring AI closer to SMEs and make it accessible for them. And a reassembly factory concept, which means that within our demonstration facilities, we are building up with industrial partners the first ideas how a remanufacturing assembly line could look like. And then we do research on that.
Are we talking digital twins here?
Yes, for example, digital twins, also how to integrate 5G into it and make it really on the shop floor accessible for the especially the SMEs.
Yeah, it's a really big thing on in the ICT R&D world, right? When it comes to industry, manufacturing industry and so on. That part, the digital twin technology is moving in directions that is extremely complicated and complex. Now, let's move into the motivation. The technical university of Aachen, it's Germany's largest technological university, and it is. You have what, 30,000 students?
Yes, I think it's
it's a lot. I think it's
a
even
lot
more actually.
Yeah.
I think it's 80,000 or something like this. It's 80,000. The city has 300,000 inhabitants. So the city of Aachen is filled with the university is ubiquitous throughout the city. So you have it everywhere you move. So even in the city center, which is very old, which historians will know that it goes before the last millennial turn, and it's been a papal seat also briefly with Karl the Great. But even in there, you have research institutes, and then you have in the outskirts of the city. It's huge. It's massive. It's just rolling all over the hills of Aachen, surrounding it. So it's a massive organization. No, just wanted to add that. It's good for the pictures in the head of the listeners. No, motivation. Let's have a talk about where you started. So when you started your career in the university, there was no structured approach to EU R&D funding. Is that correctly understood?
No, yeah. We've been active in FP7 because we had one researcher who was really interested in EU projects, and also our managing director. He was really interested in EU projects and also has established already some networks on EU level. So, for example, we are since 2007 or something, a ALTO member and in EFRA. So we had our networks, but then I don't just bluntly speaking, once we moved to this new campus, had a new building, and the funding situation in Germany on national and regional level has been exceptional in the last 10 years. Back or like back then. So EU seemed to be a lot of effort and a lot of regulations and complicated, and it was much easier to go for national and regional funding.
Yeah.
So yes, and this kind of was the situation when I started, that we occasionally jumped on the wagon when someone from the network asked us to participate in an EU proposal, but just on a very low level and not really having a lot of knowledge about who we are working with and if this is going to be a successful consortium. So basically the idea was, okay, let's not envision EU funding a lot. And then this kind of changed by the fact that I was interested in it, so I wanted to pursue it, and then also that on regional level the requirements were tightened, that you had to have international EU projects in order to get your basic funding.
Yeah.
So and then also, I mean, the funding structures and the funding possibilities in Germany changed. So I mean, it was just natural that we had to become involved with the EU. But we wanted to do it efficiently because we are not that big. I mean, we're an organization with 80 to 100 employees and about 50 to 60 researchers, I would say. So it had to be efficient. So basically, I had a lot of freedom in the beginning when starting to build this position, which I didn't even know it's going to be a position. But I went on an exploratory mission, so to say, and the only goal or the only aim that was set was get us an EU proposal or an EU project.
Yeah. So motivation is related to framework conditions, changing framework conditions for accessing funding that you would normally be fairly easy to access locally, regionally. And anyways, their rules and regulations also started to become, so it didn't really, like if you need to do that or EU, then it is the difference started to even out.
Yes.
Is that what you're
saying?
Yeah. And you, of course, your management in the institute, all research institutes, especially public, they are constantly looking for more resources for the research team, especially the PIs, the researchers and the teams. They are constantly craving more external funding.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're looking at something where the ground was fertile to start doing something with this.
Yes, very fertile. And as I said, I had a lot of leeway, so to say, to test out different strategies. And the good thing was that, and I think that's a quite unique structure, because we are not that big of an institution, we had one researcher per department that was forming a team with me to go on this exploratory mission. And that way, I wasn't part of the administration. I was more of a Schnittstellenfunktion, and more like of a cross-cutting position within the institute, and very close to the researchers. So I knew about their research interests. I knew about where the departments wanted to go to, which research focus they had. And I always had a researcher also on hand who could directly help me out whenever it got too technical and I needed, for the contacts, for the networking aspects, to involve them directly. And at the same time, building up their knowledge about EU funding mechanisms and how to write EU proposals. So, and
now we're moving a little bit into the next point.
Yeah.
But it's so it's fine. It's a nice bridge. The only thing I need to understand, or need to check with you before we move on to what you already started. Expectations. It doesn't sound like there was too much pressure from your manager's side in relation to this. So what was the expectations when you started this out?
I would say
get an EU project. That was the expectation.
Yes. Get us an EU project. And then we as a team build up more expectations and build up more of an agenda and a strategy. And of course, we had the great benefit that after a very short amount of time and a very few proposals, we got the first funded project. So I think I've been writing 3 or 4 or 5, and then we had the first hit. So we got the first project funded. That was in 2018, 19, beginning of 19. So that was already a success.
That's of massive importance when you start
Yes,
out.
very important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a public organization, tight of resources, look, I have an idea. Yes. Yeah, that sounds expensive. You know, if so, that it's not a private organization with profit and so on, but public research organizations are always short of money.
Yes.
So of course, it has been, I don't know, it's been vital, but it's probably quite important for for the support from above for your activities that you got it fairly quick after you started the initiative.
Yes. And so the fact was, of course, I mean, I've been a university graduate. I haven't been working anywhere else. So for me, it was also a bit leaning out of the window saying, I can do this and I can build this up. But I was actually, to be quite blank here, still an unwritten book because I had to learn a lot in a very, very, very short time. How to do
University
this.
freshman.
Yeah, so I was bothering whoever I could reach, every contact I could get, if it was NCPs, if it was more experienced research managers, or the research managing community in Germany, or the COVI, which is like a German support organization for research managers to get through the EU funding jungle. Or whoever I could reach, if it was Zenit or Zenit, if it was you sometimes, like whenever I had a question, I would reach out to every contact I developed and ask people, so how did you do this? Or how do you do this? And try to go with every workshop that made sense to me. Had quite a luck there to build up my knowledge there. Did the research core, like this research manager certificate, which they have in Germany, and a mentoring program parallel. So basically just going all in there, trying to, in a very short amount of time, learn as much as possible.
Yeah, well done.
Thanks.
Let's move into talking a little bit how you did it. So I have divided this up to how did she do it? First internally and then externally.
Yes.
So first we're going to have a look at what happened. Yeah. So one thing is to take this decision, and one thing you already shared a little bit. And you had a person, a resource there, a sort of a bridge person in each research team. But let's take it a little, so let's move into structures and see how. So you got the go. So how did you start? What was the first thing you did? Do you remember?
Oh, yes. I think the first thing we did was, or what I did was, looking at the calls and what is out there. And then very quickly, using those old networks, especially the partnership, and going to those partnership and brokerage events to meet
Let's
partners.
wait a little bit with that. Let's wait with that because that's the external part.
I know.
It can be a little artificial to do it like this because this is what you did when you start. But how did the internal organization, so to say, what steps did you take?
Yes. So first looking at the calls, and then of course developing kind of a profile for what we can offer to a consortium as a partner. And there we had quite high expectations because we wanted to be a valuable partner and not one of those jumping on the wagon partners anymore. Because I mean, we are quite small research organizations, so excellence is everything when you want to join great research consortiums, I think, and reliance with and resilience and commitment, to the proposal that you want to write. So we set up quite strict guidelines on how we want our young researchers to be involved, while at the same time educating them and preparing them on how to write these research proposals. And how did we do that? By a really, I would say, one-on-one support. So I would
Yeah.
go very deep into the proposal preparations, to go through the core analysis with the researchers, and really breaking it down to the smallest common denominator on what the call is about and what we can offer as a partner. Because coordinating at that point was for us, without a question, not an issue, but we wanted to be a committed partner and to get into the business again.
Yeah. That this training training the researchers, this is a vital aspect. So you got that right, definitely, because this is what everybody says. Also, guests, former guests on the show, that when they work, big research organizations, when they work with these things, it's of vital importance for them that the junior researchers, they get into this flow. Senior researchers and professors, senior professors of a certain age, can be more difficult to work with when it comes to this. So often the weight on the leg in terms of training the researchers themselves on this is put on the young ones, because they are also more often open to working with these things. Yeah, good. You mentioned, to pick this up, so ambition-wise, did you already in the beginning have an idea that you wanted to coordinate things or just be a partner? Did you have an articulated or reflected exchange in the institute on, okay, the ambition is to be a coordinator within 3 years, or I don't know, or within this topic that is our strongest thing, we want to did you have something like this?
Well, the funny aspect is that we said, no, we are not going to coordinate. We need to first gather enough experience. Wisely. But we very quickly kind of had this sense of understanding that we are co-piloting we were really close to the coordinator. You could also say that we were quickly taking up a position of a technical expert, or like a very active member within the consortium, really strongly supporting the coordinator. And oftentimes I heard these young researchers who were really motivated, why don't we coordinate this ourselves? And I always had to stop them, because it meant a lot. I mean, best the administrative burden that comes with coordinating a project. So we were simply not ready for this yet, also administration-wise. Because as a really small organization, you don't have a team of 30, 40, 50 people working in the administration like the university has, but we have a team of 5, and we haven't been involved in EU research for a long time. So you, of course, have to also navigate them through all the regulations and organizational aspects of becoming active on EU level. And so we directly decide, okay, we are not coordinating, but we want to be actively involved and not just jumping on at the last minute. So we developed this sense of, okay, we really want to be in the proposal writing from the beginning on, from meeting the coordinator, from building up the consortium, from developing the first ideas, towards writing the proposal. And sometimes it even happened, and that was a really success factor also, that we already came in with an idea what we want to do for the call, and handing it more or less to someone who would coordinate the proposal. Like we already said, well, we see this as a winning concept for addressing this call. Would you like to do this with us? But we can't coordinate. So, and that worked really well.
It, of course, only works in the case that you have a motivated coordinator.
Yes.
Yeah. Of course, it helps that you dress everything up. Yeah. When you come with it like this, super strong concept, support on proposal preparation and so on, which is often one of the really big bottlenecks, so to say, because being a coordinator, you know that it's going to be difficult. But stepping in like this, it probably makes it easier for organizations that are hesitating choosing the role. Can be talked into it, but hesitating, where they see, okay, these guys, they are super serious and committed to supporting us when doing this. So yeah, did you experience that some of the coordinators said, look, we decided to be coordinator because we can see that you have supported us so much? Or did you get that feeling, or did someone say it?
We definitely had that in one of the proposals, that the coordinator in the end said, oh, great, we really, under this aspect, we didn't even see this call, but it fits perfectly with what we could also imagine what we could do. And you already provided us with a concept. So yes, we're going in as a coordinator because we want to do this project with you. Yes, we had this, and more often now in, more recent history, I would say, like the recent funding period, for sure. Yeah. But also, I mean, coming back to the structures a bit, we have this very young, very dynamic structure here because they're all PhD candidates. All our young researchers are PhD candidates. So they stay within our organization for 4.5 to 6 years, and they go then into industry. So they are highly motivated. Writing their PhD is more or less what they do in their free time. So most of the time they invest their time into working on research projects and on also these consultancy projects. And so they're really active project managers, you would say. They're more project managers, I would say, or they share that they're research project managers, I would say, but in a very substantial way. And we have really flat hierarchies, very closeness between the departments. It's all in one building, so we have really familiar or family-based atmosphere here. Within this,
not very German.
Yeah, not really. Yeah, great that you say that. And
it's true.
And then in an innovative ecosystem, as you said, the city lives of the university, and especially our Professor Shu had this idea to really connect the campus closely with industry and make industry become part of the campus. So it's really orientated practical research towards industry and with industry, and also kind of incorporating the interest from industry into research and making it circular, So research for industry giving impacts or like inputs for the research again, and see it as a circular movement.
Yeah, I was on the tip of my tongue before you said it, that obviously when you have a structure like this, also with the cluster in the same building, so there is young ICT engineers, industry around the corner, strong, the powerhouse of Europe, so to say, North Rhine-Westphalia. But it's bound to be close connection to the industry. So it's very good that this is how you manage all diseases, because this is your claim to fame as a research organization within this, taking the most advantage of that, because you have some of the strongest industries just outside your door.
Yeah.
Maybe not Aachen, you have certain industry, but I mean, you're like in the Ruhr district, right? So towards Cologne and Dortmund and so on. So yeah, it's right there.
And the funny thing is, during our non-EU times, building up this new infrastructure, there was actually one person, like a commissioner, coming to visit our facilities right when I started here. And he said, well, with all this great infrastructure you have here operating already, why aren't you a digital innovation hub? Why aren't you registered in the system yet? And it was like, low-hanging fruits. We already had everything here. We just had to find a way to advertise and structure it and make it EU ready, so to say.
So you did.
And so we did, yeah.
Yeah. Stephanie, have we finished talking about the practical building internal support organization? So how you mentioned normally, so people, research listeners will know the concept of project support officers on universities, and you just mentioned that they have a lot at the university because you're an independent institute, so to say, loosely connected to the organizations. You have to have your own office, and you mentioned the number 5. So is that what you are in the project support unit? 5 people?
Yes. Yeah. So
Yeah.
not in the project support, but like 5 researchers from every department, 1 researcher plus me, forming one team. And
So
more or less, yes.
you are the project support office.
We are. I am so far. I've been the project support office, and they were gladly to have me because for other funding schemes that didn't even exist. So for EU, that we had this structure now, and it was also kind of a motivation act, to get them over this kind of ghost hanging in the room that EU funding is so complicated and really difficult to do. So I had to really like work my motivation skills and animation skills to get them on board and to start thinking differently about it. Now they are all very hyped, but I mean, also again, some kind of little tricks I use is, for example, I started off with handing every one of them an EU flag whenever they handed in a proposal. We are now at coffee mugs, so every researcher who's handing in a research proposal gets a coffee mug with an EU logo on it.
Sure.
And it's celebrated. It's really a celebration whenever we hand in a proposal. We get together, have a beer in the common room, so to say, in the winter garden. And we celebrate the success as if we already won the project. So it's like a cultural thing that changed in the recent years. And now researchers come to me and say, "Oh, it's so cool. I also want a cup. I also want a EU cup. How can I get it?"
The psychology around these things. I want the cup. Yeah, but it's the human species is a funny one.
Yeah.
But it's if the small tricks work, that's fine. Because the thing is, these are, come on, guys, you're ICT engineers. Don't tell me that you find this complex. Don't tell me that applying for funding okay, you have some rules of the game, you have some things you need to be aware of, but any of these guys and girls in your institute, if they put themselves to it, they would acquire this knowledge fairly quickly.
Exactly.
And with your guidance, it's not. But the rumors of EU funding within the research world, if you're not really going at it, right? If you have not entered this, like structural way of approaching it, it is. Nah.
Well, but it changed completely because, I mean, looking at it now, like I just can shake my head because now the researchers here, they're like really hyped about EU funding. They want to do EU projects because
Fantastic.
The funding rate is great. The overhead is great. It's quite stable. You have so many benefits, and suddenly it's really present, and it's not even a discussion anymore. It's more a discussion. Shall we go for rather go for a new project than applying for national funding because it got way more competitive. And I mean, our success rates have been really good. So that's also kind of hyping them a bit. Yeah, for sure.
But it's also, now you're also reaping the fruits of a consistent work, because if you are consistent and if you start to win, then you're also into a winning group that will continue win things. And if you're engaged as you are, the way that you have approached this with being very proactive and supporting the coordinator, writing a lot, being a co-pilot, stuff like this, you're invited back in because you're seen as a good partner, and you're invited back in the right consortia. And this is probably one of the most important long strategic approaches to this, that is the most importance, because the funding simply, it gets much easier to access the longer you roll.
Yeah,
it's like this. It's you know the rules better. It's much more industrialized, the approach of the administration, both from the research but also the admin people sitting in the university, and you're invited into more. So it's It's tough in the beginning, but if you are stubbornly about it, then it's going to come back to you continuously, and you can build the research institute you have. I don't know, did you grow in numbers of researchers because you have getting more external funding from the EU?
No, not necessarily, because
No? Okay.
we
Yeah.
didn't grow, but yeah, just the funding structures and the way the money is spread just changed, and also I think the research interests changed a bit, because of focusing more on what is also going on EU level, being more aware of it. I think I would say we are more forward looking, not even more forward looking, I would say. But that's my personal opinion, like going
Yeah.
like this upgrade circular economy focus. I think that's something very ambitious, and it's great that they go for it now. And I think that also partially is influenced by this very high quality research we're doing now with the EU projects as well.
I think let's not keep people in oblivion anymore about, because now we should move into the external part. But a nice bridge for that, the funding schemes that you have been focusing on. How have you become more dairy? So you started out with Horizon 2020,
Yeah.
and focusing on calls within your specific area in the ICT work program. But did you get more hair on your chest on the institute, so to say, to start moving into other areas? Because ICT, as everybody knows, is a horizontal exercise. So there should be lots to do in circular economy, in the work cluster, four, the bioeconomy, circular economy work program, stuff like this.
Yeah, for sure.
How did you develop your focus?
Well, basically, I mean, I heard it before in one of your podcast sessions. So what we also do, we have this short list of calls, and we screen every single work program. Like one researcher gets one work program for one cluster, and we go through all of them to see if we find a focus that we could look for. Because the benefit of that is, I mean, we all know cluster 4 is very heavily used by a lot of organizations within our field. So what we go for those calls that are not in cluster 4 necessarily. I mean, we also apply for cluster 4, but we always try to find these kind of niche topics where it's not the main topic. It doesn't scream AI from the title, but it's somewhere written in the call text. So we go through all the clusters and we see, could we fit this with our research interests? Is this something we could also look for? Maybe not as coordinating it, but as a really strong partner, having one work program, package, or doing a work package lead there, and it's still related to our topics, and we could do some interdisciplinary research here, and could really be a strong, valuable partner to the project. But it's not necessarily like screaming our research topics, and we've been really successful with this approach.
Yes, and let me explain the listeners why. That's because if you approach the Horizon work programs, the framework program calls like this, it gives you the opportunity to go away from the calls that have 100 proposals sent in. So your success rate, you immediately raise your success rate, because if looking for smaller, less flagship calls, so to say, you have many calls in the workforce. Some of them, they really, like have a lot of people. We really want to do that. And then you have some smaller calls, maybe niche within the area, little corner that wants to investigate something. And there you might have 10 proposals, sometimes even less. And naturally, it's easier to come through because you have less competition. So the success rate is by definition 10% without even just sending it in. If you have 10 proposals, and then so it's good. Well done. Did you? What about the ERC?
No, we're not in the ERC. No, because we don't have any postdocs or long-term researchers so far.
Okay.
So ERC is not
The
our
technical,
yeah, it's technical focused. And but yeah, as you said, we also looked into other funding schemes. So we became involved with the Digital Euro program early on. As I mentioned before, the commissioner mentioning, oh, why aren't you a digital innovation hub? So I did deeper into that topic, and we applied for becoming a European digital innovation hub, and together with the university, and build a really strong consortium there from the region, and were successful there with the funding. So we are indeed part of the European Digital Innovation Hub. We also looked into the EIT programs, and saw if we can apply for funding there. We're successful there for 2 projects. So yeah, there are much more possibilities to get funding than just the Horizon program. Yes.
Yeah, indeed. No. All right, let's move into how did you do it? Externally, so we look at the world outside, approaching the world, surrounding world of fear.
Yes.
So you jump started into the what did you start with? You started with, of course, the networking. So now you have a fully free hand to share how you approached the networking and brokerages.
Well, I think you need to be bold for beginning. Yeah, you need to dare to go into those networks and not be shy. So that was the first aspect. And luckily, I did an internship back during my university time in Brussels with a great Italian boss that just pushed me into every high level conference and asking me to raise a question or to get involved with the people there that I could imagine. So I had a good
Excellent.
background. And he taught me early on the elevator pitch and everything that goes along with that. So I took on every opportunity to either speak as part of the audience, making a hopefully smart comment. But in the end, it just matters that you say your name, where you come from, mentioning RWTH Aachen University. And best part is you make a smart comment and then people come up to you afterwards, or you go to these speed dating where we almost would have met, brokerage events, and you talk to people. But of course, I mean, that's more of getting into this first contacts, but then you need to become more involved with more, not just like the commoners, but also these higher level groups that are very active on EU level. And we had the benefit of being an EATO member, as I said, and in EFRA. So being bold as I am, I just approached whoever I thought would be interesting to talk to, or during lunch or during these events, and just talk to them. And being honest and just very open about where we are standing, that we are recently joining again EU, but we're very committed. Of course, you sometimes mention in a sentence, not the main sentence, but just feeding in that you've been quite successful, though you've been new to the business. And you just kind of pick up conversations, bringing sometimes researchers with me to these conferences, introducing them to people that I got to know, talking to the people that you've been proposal writing with, and more or less, the more you become involved, the more conferences and meetings you visit, the more that people recognize your face, of course. So the typical business. But then I didn't shy away from start becoming a member of working groups or contributing, or whenever I had the chance, saying yes to more like when they ask you to participate in events. So you're not naturally there, but you have to actively agree to come and to put in some work. I participated in these events. So for example, there was this consultation session with the Commission where they were drawing up the Made in Europe partnership. And I was asked to join this workshop with 100 people. And of course I said yes, because I knew about the significance about this meeting. And of course we contributed parts from our organization. It was really easy to do that. So it was highly appreciated and highly valued that we commented and that we actively participated. And that helped a lot. Yeah.
So first of all, the networking and brokerages. You know what? You mentioned one of the most important things, because it's anybody can prepare for networking. Anybody can sit down. So I go to this. Who can I meet? For the brokerages, you even have the lists of contacts there. You can read about them and so on. But nothing can prepare you if you're a novice in this. Nothing can prepare for what happens when you go.
Yes.
Brokerage events are easier because you're forced to sit at a table one on one. So there, that's a setup that is good for introvert people, right? But for events, networking events, where there's not a structured setup, where you have to be outrovert, where you have to actively take contact to people to talk, that can be terrifying, especially for people who are new within their field. They don't know anybody. They maybe haven't been facilitating so long within the area that they're the conference they are there. So it is, yeah, that part that your old manager scolded you with, saying you have to ask a question. These kind of things that forces you out into the open, just do it. It's something that psychologically helps to overstep that, because it is really a barrier for many people. It was for me. I know exactly what I'm talking about, because I was not a natural networker. I became one, but I wasn't when I started. So it's that's very, very important. And the second thing that you mentioned that is very, very important is to use the influential platforms that are related to your field and work actively in there. This is what I say, and this is what everybody in this show says. This is, if you show an active spirit in these groups or organizations, where you're in associations, whatever, if there is an element of giving input to the commission one way or the other, no matter how structured it is, if a technology platform or some sort of association that has an input privilege, so to say, if you want to have a say, don't be shy. Step into those things. Start to do the work. Make an investment in time, of your time into doing this, because it's going to come back tenfold. If you keep moving on there, you can see you're committed, so you get credibility throughout the group, and this always comes back. So it comes back not only in what's going to happen with the input to the commission, so you have a say. But it's a two-sided sword, because the other side of it is you will be invited into more proposals with the right people you want to be with. So it's this, Stephanie, you did everything right.
Thanks.
No. And the thing is, what I want to check with you now is that did you make a strategy around this, or did you sort of pave as you went? Or did you sit down when this happened and you started to, okay, this is something we need to do here? I'm moving on with this internally. So externally, did you just started looking for networking events or brokerages and went to them and doing it a little bit on the experience? Or did you sit down and say, okay, with networks, we need to do this. With the influential groups, what do we want from it? Where can we go and how can we do it? Or did you make some sort of strategy around it, or did it come later?
Well, I would say it's been a mixture of both. Of course, the strategy came later, and I first was testing out everything, but within a very limited framework, because and there's a bit of personal background. I'm only working part-time. I have 3 kids, so I have to be very, and I said that to my boss as well. I think about it 3 times if I need to meet with that person and drink a coffee and meet up with them and chat with them and visit those events. Or if I could just say, okay, pass, I won't go. This brings me nothing. So so that was my personal strategy, to really examine, okay, what are they going to talk about? Does that make sense to us? Is that of value? Who's going to visit the event? Whenever I got a participant list, yes, of course, that's strategic. does it bring any benefit, and how long do I have to travel? So I really chose wisely the events I went to, and I even contacted NCPs or other people in the community and asking them about the events and if it makes sense to go to that event. So I pretty quickly saw which events make sense to go to, and kind of, you could go to every event. You could go to an event every day, more or less, in Brussels, right? There's always something going on, or even in parallel, but then you have to choose, and you have to choose wisely which ones are very beneficial and which really makes sense to go to. Although I must say, sometimes the events where you think, okay, I don't think I should have gone here, and then you meet someone at the airport going back, and that's the really great contact. You start working together. That happens too, But most of the times, I'm trying to really be selective about the events that I go to.
You know what? I I have a proverb I made myself. If you stir in the soup, some meatballs are gonna come up on the top.
Yes.
Just like this.
Yeah.
And you don't know what kind of meatball it is, but at least something happens if it was just in the airport on the way home.
I think what the strategy is, like, that you visit events that have different purposes, that you go to an event that focuses on, like the IATO events, the research organizations, and what role research organizations play in Europe, because that gives you a political backbone on where the road is taking you and what kind of argumentations you should use. So you get a lot of political knowledge and background. And then, of course, the partnership events, they are on the complete opposite, because you focus a lot more on the topic and the core research interests and the industrial partners that are interested in these topics and know really what's going on the agenda. And then, of course, you have the commission events where you can ask questions and um, get more knowledge about the calls and so on. And then you have the meetings where you meet, your working fellows, the other research managers. That's also really big backbone, that you have close contacts with the working level and get really familiar with them, because it's a great community. I think often not really seen in Europe. So that's why I love your podcast so much, because it gives also a lot of more presence to them. Of course, there's Yama, but they are a really great community, really open, very talkative, really based on exchanging knowledge and how to's and what to do. And it's great, because as long as you are open and sometimes even talk about your tricks and tips and so on, then you get a really good basis. And also, that's something that really taught me a lot, that whenever I try to raise my voice or talk to people, I'm not talking about how great necessarily we are as an institute, but I focus more on what I can give as informations, as interesting facts, as knowledge that I have, without any second thoughts about what I can gain from it. Firstly, I'm more this attitude and the spirit to actively participate for the idea of contributing to EU research funding structures or EU research mechanisms or EU research in general, so giving something instead of focusing on what I can get out of it. And then this getting out of it comes naturally, I think, because people see that you have more of a not so self-focused agenda. Yeah.
Speaking of networks, have you become closer to the European flagship universities within your field?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Yes. I mean, of course, these partners, like be it universities or research organizations, they are most of the time very active in Brussels. So naturally, when you want to become part of successful proposals, then you need to approach them and get good relationships with them. And they see us as a very valuable partner because of those principles that we developed, how we want to be involved in consortium before. So they see us as a active and sympathetic and committed partner, and they I get the feedback that they value us highly now as a partner. And they sometimes are even a bit, how to say, looking at it, because we are much more flexible, because we are so small as our own research entity. We are much more flexible and easy to put things through or to implement new ideas and research interests. So we're really yeah, it's easier to change something and to get something done than in those big research organizations. So because it's such a familiar or family-based structure, and the interdisciplinarity, because all the departments are in one building and close together, so it's very active and very flexible, I would say.
And what about the industry? In Europe, because you're closely connected to the industry in North Rhine-Westphalia, Germany, but have you got valuable connections Europe-wide?
Yes, of course, through the projects, because we always involve industrial partners within it, and always also try to involve SMEs. But I think the focus is more on taking SMEs from our ecosystem with us, like reliable SMEs that we've been working with in the regional or national funding schemes, that we know or we can work well together, taking them on board and introducing them to EU funding. And that's something that we kind of also put in our flag, so to say, that we always take one SME or one or two SMEs that we can rely on, and we can say, okay, they're really highly innovative, but they haven't been in EU business yet, and taking them on board and taking them with us, writing becoming part of an EU project, which is not easy thing to do, because
no, it's not.
they don't have any like the ones we take with us, they don't even have a PIC number yet, so it's a lot of work to take them with us.
And God bless them, because why should they have a PIC number, right? So
Yes.
it's just you have to step in there and take the administrative take them through that. But it's they're good at what they do because they've had a good idea years ago, and now they have a nice production, but they didn't get it from EU funding. I wanted to ask you about, do you now have an influencer strategy? Have you sat down in the institute, sat down with your managers and the research teams and said, look, these are the core, I'm just mentioning, these are our three main areas. Research within this is of major importance for our organization. We will put effort into influencing in this that the research moves in this direction, and then following a track using EFRA, the other platforms that you're involved in, and combined with maybe German program committee members and so on and so forth. Are you doing this?
Yes. So we are. I'm consulting, or I'm supporting our research departments now in developing these kind of strategic approaches. We tested it out once, where we wrote a building block for a consultation process, and where we kind of pitched one of our research interests to get calls out of it. And it was easy how really easy how soon it got into the in the strategic research plan for the partnership. So it was, I always thought that only when you're a big organization, you're highly lobbying in Brussels, you can get your research interests on the agenda. But the new mechanisms of these consultancies, consultation practices, and talking about what you want to do, and talking again and again about your research interests, and finding the right person who is picking it up and says, oh, can you please write me a short paper about it, or a report on it, explain it to me a bit more in specifics. It's really easy to get this on the agenda. And I was surprised by it, for sure, because again, I didn't think it's possible, but we just simply tried. But yes, concerning these interest representation, we are much more strategic now, especially with the topic upgrade circular economy. I'm currently working on developing a concept and a strategy how we can get it on the agenda. Yes.
And this is one of the discourse messages of this podcast. It might seem complex because you're an exact mirror of that. It might seem complex if you have not done it before or don't know how it works. You have the tendency to think, what a mechanism, I'm never going to come through that machine. But as soon as you start to identify where it is, you find the right fora, you start to talk to the right people in those fora, then suddenly it is not complex anymore.
No.
Because it's simply a discussion fora that gathers information and agrees on information that is being forwarded as input, suggested input. And if you sit in those places, people listen to what you say. It's that simple. So it's. I always say the biggest bottleneck is to take the first step and Google or find out. Make that investment in time and finding out where is it we can influence. But as soon as you have identified that, then there's a phone number, there's a contact person. You can approach that forum, that platform, and say, what does it take to get in? Sometimes you need to pay some money. Sometimes it's free of charge as long as you're within the sector. And that's it. Show up. Be consistent. Show up to the meetings. And then, make a strategy about content that you have done now. So.
Yeah, and be bold and have your pitch ready and what you want to say, and don't be afraid to ask as well. Like if there are, for example, in these partnerships, I am happy that we have such good contacts to the secretariat of the partnership, and I can just simply call them and ask, hey, we have this idea, how can we place it, and what can we do, where should we put it best? And sometimes that, or like most of the times, they give really good answers and ideas on how you can place it, and it's not that big of a difficult and fuzzy organization as sometimes it seems,
No. But that's the issue with the process ecosystem, because it's such a huge place. The ecosystem is big. To navigate that, sometimes it's nice to have someone to point you in the right direction. Just checking, I'm sitting here and putting notes down of things I don't need to remember to ask. So I have a couple of things. So, and that's probably, but it's actually related to the external part here and your networking and brokerage, especially brokerage. Do you make one pages, so to say, information about the research you do, that you communication-wise, marketing, so to say, of your teams that you bring with you for brokerages? So how do you work with that?
Yes, we do. But, I've seen a lot of these presentations, and sometimes they're run-throughs of where you have like 30 more partners presenting these one pages or presentations about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of course, we thought about it. How can we do it differently? So we've been always very innovative about it. So we tried not to talk that much about us as an institute, but rather what we can bring to the research interest that is proceeded in the call. Like what ideas we have that would contribute the whole consortium, or what we see as a possible solution to answering the call. So we less focused on us as a research partner and what great, infrastructure we have, and the partners that we can bring with us, and how successful we were, which I saw a lot on these slides. But we rather focused on really how can we contribute, what can we give, as I said before. And that really changed something. Like we had a lot of people approaching us after these pitches, because we didn't focus that much on us, but rather on how we can solve the core idea. How we can address it, and
so problem oriented.
problem oriented. Yes, good formulation. Yeah.
At my university, I studied in had that as a like square root.
Yes.
problem oriented. All right, we're soon done. But I have two more questions that are dotted down here. But that's actually 2 out of 1. How many proposals do you involve yourselves in?
At the same time.
Yeah, because as a research organization, there's of course a certain limit to how much you can choke. Yeah,
Yes.
but how is it now? Like after you sort of gotten into a certain rhythm with it, how many are you involved in every year?
Well, yeah. So last year, I think we handed in 9 proposals within
Yeah,
2 funding periods, I would say. So there's one big one in spring always, and then was one in the fall.
yeah,
But that was quite a lot for the size of our institute. And at the same time, I'm more comfortable with looking at, depending on, of course, the commitment we have, between 2 and 3.
yeah. Every year
No, but in one funding period, like,
in one call
in one
round.
call round, yes,
Yeah,
between
yeah,
2
yeah,
and 3 max. I would rather go for one and then do it really intensely, But
yeah.
if I think manageable, it's 2 and 3, but then not as a coordinator, of course. If we're coordinating, then it's just one,
Mhm.
I would say.
Yeah. How many projects are you currently involved in?
9.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's nice.
Yes. So
That's a lot.
yes.
How are you coping administratively? Are you okay?
We're building up competencies, I would say. That would be my
Uh-huh.
answer. Now, I just got a new colleague who's going to focus more on the administrative management of working with the projects, and we go along with the flow. We learn a lot on the flow, yes, and trying to get as much help as possible, trying to prepare. And we're coordinating currently 2 projects, so that's also been a journey. But it's just a really motivated atmosphere, and everyone would like to get this done and get it good done. And that way, we take every challenge and try to learn from it, write it down, do a lot of knowledge management newly now. That's also new, because
Takes a while.
yeah, yeah.
Because also what is not also part of the learning process, that's the contingency and damage control parts of being in a project, right? Because one thing is writing a proposals, one thing is getting into the right places, one thing is winning it and starting a project implementation, but a very important thing is to how to deal when things go wrong, because they do go wrong. It's always something, right?
Yes.
So learning how to deal with that and coping with that as an organization. Both if there are mistakes or things that goes wrong with the work you do and with others. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Are you coordinating any of these 9?
Me myself, no. No, I'm more responsible for the proposal writing phase and the networking. And as soon as the project is through the winning, like the gap phase, and starts operating, I'm out more or less. Although I'm still, following up a bit on the contacts, who's been valuable partner, and by the end of the project, I would come in again and see, are we going to do any follow-up activities? Is this going to continue with a part of the consortium for a new proposal, these kind of activities. So I'm not directly involved in the projects then myself.
But are any of those 9 projects fear? Are you a coordinator of any of those 9 proposals?
Yes, 2.
Projects.
Yeah.
2. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. That's well done.
Yes.
Stephanie, we're moving towards the end. First, do's and don'ts. Short, like hard learnings, positive surprises, whatever. Is there anything you want to share with the listeners sitting in a research organizations? Maybe we start with the don'ts.
With the don'ts, okay. Don't go along with proposals where you have a gut feeling it's not going to be successful, or if you are having the feeling we're 2 weeks before handing in the proposal and there's nothing written yet, don't go down that line. Don't start 6 weeks before the deadline with a project, unless everything is already set and you just have to say yes and write your small part. Don't follow every lead for every proposal. if it's just slightly connected to your research interests, but you have to be fully committed to it. Like the researchers have to be thinking, oh, this is great, I want to work on it. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense.
Fire in their eyes.
Fire in their eyes, yes.
Fire in those research eyes.
And don't think you have to do it all alone. Yeah. Like honestly, use every, and that's something already switching to the positives and the do's. Use every help you can get, and any like especially building up, find a mentor or build yourself a network of NCP's contacts that you easily get along with, where you know how many cats they have or the kids they have, and who you can go to and take on every help you can get, and be honest about your problems and your struggles, because you get more support from the research managing communities or whoever you contact whenever you're honest about your problems that you're facing.
Yeah, nice advice. The Grant. Toughest challenge? What is it? What has been the roughest one in those 7 years you've been doing this?
I would say the toughest challenge was to understand how the system is working in Brussels and how you can find your path as a smaller research organization within it, and also how to choose well what information you need and what don't, and like finding a focus in which you're good at from everything you could do there. Toughest personal challenge is to not overwork myself building up that position, and to find a balance, because you can, like, these researchers there, they couldn't go until 3:30 at night to finish that proposal.
Oh yeah.
And if you're
But
highly motivated, you can be easily next to them. But you have to get up at 6 and cannot sleep in, the next morning, and be wise about your time. So that has been tough challenges to find a good balance.
Have you felt alone sometimes?
Yes, at the beginning I felt alone because I didn't know the right contacts yet. I didn't know who to talk to. I didn't always have open doors, so I had to find and ask a lot before I found the right naming for what I'm actually doing. I didn't from the start know, which is quite clearer now. I think that, like, compared to back in the day, like 7 years ago, about these EU research manager positions. I think it got more attention now than 7 years ago.
Indeed, yeah.
I didn't even exactly know how to name the position I'm working on, what this is, and where to find support, and that there were so many support mechanisms already in place that you can contact and that you can ask for support and ask to build your knowledge and build your expertise. So yes, in the beginning I felt alone, but it was just a very short period of time.
Well, dear listeners, now you're never alone. You can always tune into the Grant. You can always tap into Niels Tudor Winter, and he's always there as a friend in your ear. But this the reason why I asked this, because it's a small research institute. You picked up the glove, right? You got this idea, and then you roll with it, and I can imagine very, very well that there's been some stretches that's it's been a little long to run.
Yes.
Out there in the open without knowing if you would make it to the end.
On the good remark, I mean, I always had, although they didn't like organizationally work in the same task that I had to cover with, but the research team that I constantly have these young motivated researchers.
That's nice.
They always hold my back. Like they were always there. They followed through with every crazy idea I had, how we can motivate our researchers, which event we should go to, what thing we should try out, they were always there supporting it or giving critical feedback, and were really behind my back and supporting me throughout it all.
Suck their energy, Stephanie. Suck their young, vibrant energy. They don't even know.
No, I mean, that's a pretty unique structure that we have there. And I would recommend it to every small research organization to do that way, because it there is even in research, let's say research on university structures, there is this theoretical divide between the administration and the research community, and their different interests. And if you merge them and try to build a bridge and work together, I think it's so fruitful. So if you have the chance, do so, because you can learn from each other so well, and it is much more dynamic and fluent than if you separate it completely.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to anyone out there. You feel free to reach out to Stephanie. Probably she will be happy to share her experience with you. So what you will find, I will put her LinkedIn profile on the episode page. So you will be able to connect with her through there. So to reach out, because I encourage people, if they sit, one thing is what I managed to squeeze out of people in my humble rundown here and the questions I ask, but you might have some things that you feel, why on earth didn't he not ask that? Or why didn't he talk about how to make a budget? Or I don't know, of IPR issues in a research organization to build this up. So you can check it there. I will fill in the information, so you can always find it there on the episode page. Now, this also marks the end of the episode. First, before we shut down, and you're a regular, Stephanie, so you know the drill, you know what's going to happen. Now, before we say goodbye, I need to land the plane. So first, listeners, thank you so much for listening to the end. It's been a lovely conversation here with Stephanie. I hope you enjoyed it too. Don't hesitate to go in and check my back catalog. It's pretty heavy now. Moving, I can see episode 100 gleaming in the horizon. So there's lots of content also on the research side here, how research organizations work. So you go into my website and click on the button, the Grand Campus. That's where you find all the information related to the research world. And while you're there, for God's sake, please subscribe to my email list. This is the way I build up as a podcast. And if you have any sympathy with what I'm doing, you'll do me a big favor by enlisting. There you will not miss an episode. This is when you receive an email. This is when I release my episodes. Otherwise, connect with me on LinkedIn. If you want to see the flow of information, this is also where the marketing runs. So that's that. I'm not going to say anything more. Sometimes it has a tendency to be a little too long. Sorry about that. Stephanie, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
Really nice. And what I dotted down here is set a big circle around IFRA, and because they've been on my list for a while. So actually, I would like maybe to make an episode on them. And it would be nice to have a member of IFRA, like you, and someone from IFRA. Do you have, can you facilitate contact maybe to someone there to check if they would like to join for an episode?
Yes, sure. Yeah.
Excellent. So that's a nice cliffhanger there. That's a nice bridge to say goodbye to the dear listeners. Bye.
Bye.